Hello and a very warm welcome. I am Gushin Galan and you are watching Firstpost. In the next 2 minutes, I get you the top 40 updates from around the world, only here on Fast and Factual. Let's get started. We begin with India. Union Home Minister Amit Shah confirmed that 3 terrorists involved in the recent civilian killings in Pahalgam were eliminated in Jammu and Kashmir. The joint operation, named Operation Mahadev, was carried out by the Indian Army, CRPF and Jammu and Kashmir Police in the Harwan area near Srinagar. The terrorists were killed in an intense gunfight near Dachgam National Park on Monday. Meanwhile, India also conducted 2 consecutive successful test flights of the Pralay missile system Monday and Tuesday. The Defence Research and Development Organisation said the user evaluation trials validated both maximum and minimum range capabilities. The missiles followed their intended trajectory with high accuracy and met all objectives. 4 people, including a police officer, were killed in a mass shooting inside a Manhattan skyscraper. The attacker, identified as Shane Tamura of Las Vegas, was seen entering the building armed with an M4 rifle and opening fire. Additional weapons and medication bearing his name were found in his car. The FBI is investigating the motive. Security has been tightened across Manhattan. US President Donald Trump met British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Scotland to discuss trade ties and the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Trump also criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin for failing to end the war in Ukraine and moved up his proposed peace deal deadline to within 10 to 12 days. He warned of severe US tariffs on Moscow if no agreement is reached. At least 21 people were killed in overnight Russian strikes on Ukraine. A major attack on a prison in Zaporizhia killed at least 17 inmates and injured more than 80. In the Dnipro region, 4 people were reported dead and 8 injured. Ukraine's Air Force stated that Russia launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and 37 Shahed-type drones and decoys. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted at least 32 drones. Gaza's civil defense authorities reported that at least 30 Palestinians, including women and children, were killed in Israeli airstrikes on the Nusrat refugee camp. The attacks, which occurred overnight and continued into Tuesday morning, targeted several residential buildings, according to officials. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels have released video footage of crew members from the Eternity Sea cargo ship, which they sank earlier this month. The rebels claim to have rescued 11 mariners, mostly Filipinos, from the sea, 2 of whom were injured and given medical care. 1 body was recovered from the vessel before it sank. In the video, the crew, appearing coached, stated the ship was bound for Israel and ended the clip by apologizing to Palestinians. Military commanders from Thailand and Cambodia held talks as calm returned to their border following a 5-day conflict that killed at least 40 people and displaced over 300,000. The ceasefire, agreed during peace talks in Malaysia, came into effect at midnight. Thailand accused Cambodian troops of violating the truce in 5 locations early Tuesday, but Cambodia denied the claims and reiterated its commitment to peace. Violent protests broke out in Angola's capital, Luanda, on Monday following a sharp rise in diesel prices. Local media reported at least 3 deaths, including a police officer, and multiple arrests after looting and clashes with security forces. The price hike is part of the government's plan to reduce fuel subsidies. Minibus taxi fares increased by up to 50%, triggering a 3-day strike. Police used tear gas, smoke grenades and warning shots to restore order. Colombia's former President Alvaro Uribe has been convicted of abuse of process and bribery of a public official in long-running witness tampering case. The ruling makes him the first former Colombian president to be found guilty at trial. Uribe, who was acquitted of separate bribery charge, plans to appeal the decision. The case has spanned 13 years and comes ahead of the 2026 presidential elections. On to climate news now. In China, heavy rainfall forced Beijing to shut parks, libraries and museums on Tuesday. Rains also suspended bus services in suburbs and waterways, while hundreds of flights were delayed or cancelled. This came a day after torrential downpours triggered deadly landslides and mass evacuations in the capital. At least 30 people were killed and over 80,000 were moved from flood-hit areas on Monday. President Xi Jinping urged officials to prepare for worst-case scenarios. According to officials, the rain will continue through Wednesday. Torrential rain flooded farms and streets in southern Taiwan for a second day on Tuesday. At least 9 people were injured and over 80 were rescued from flooded homes and cars. Heavy rain forced evacuation of over 3,000 people and closed schools and businesses. Officials warned of more flooding and landslides as rainfall continued. In India, at least 2 people died and 2 others are missing after flash floods struck Mandi district in Himachal Pradesh on Tuesday. The floods were triggered by heavy overnight rainfall that swept away vehicles and damaged homes. A massive landslide near Kangra blocked a key highway and left hundreds of vehicles stranded. Rescue teams and volunteers are continuing search operations in the affected areas. Authorities warned of more rain and advised residents to avoid non-essential travel. In northeastern Romania, mild showers and scattered clouds followed a day of heavy rain and deadly flash floods. At least 3 people were killed and over 800,000 were evacuated from northeastern counties. According to officials, around 25 villages across 9 counties were affected by heavy rain, which damaged homes, uprooted trees and blocked traffic on national roads. Firefighters and helicopters carried out multiple rescue operations amid heavy rain. Wildfires continue to wreak havoc across the Balkans. In Athens, a major blaze erupted near a university campus on Monday. Firefighters deployed over 18 aircraft to bring the flames under control. Meanwhile, in North Macedonia, a massive fire affected several homes near the capital. Crews from Serbia, the Czech Republic and others joined efforts across the region to contain flames, as 12 fires were reported active across North Macedonia. On to business and tech news now. Shares in Asian markets edged lower earlier today as investors weighed the fallout from the US-EU trade deal and pondered over the reality that tariffs were here to stay. MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan slipped 0.7%. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei eased to 0.8%. And S&P 500 futures nudged 0.1%, while Nasdaq futures added 0.2%. The euro struggled to recoup Monday's losses after falling 1.3% earlier today, its sharpest drop in over 2 months. Investors were digesting a trade deal that favored the United States, triggering concerns over eurozone growth. Meanwhile, the dollar held firm, lifted by market worries, while sterling fell to a 2-month low. Consumer goods giant Procter & Gamble announced a leadership shake-up, saying CEO John Mueller was stepping down after 4 years in the role. The company said he would be succeeded by Chief Operating Officer Shailesh Jejurikar in a planned transition taking effect on January next year. Under Mueller, P&G had navigated higher costs and sluggish consumer spending, with company shares rising 13% over his tenure. Harley-Davidson was reportedly in talks to sell a stake in its financial services arm and loan portfolio in a deal worth up to $5 billion. Reports said the company was engaged in discussions with investment giants KKR and PIMCO as part of a move to raise funds amid sluggish sales. Spirit Airlines announced it would furlough around 270 pilots and demote another 140 as part of cost-cutting moves to align with the shrunken flight schedule. The furloughs were set to begin on November 1st, while captain downgrades would take effect 1 month earlier on October 1st. The Florida-based carrier emerged from bankruptcy in March and said the moves were necessary to return to profitability after years of losses and failed mergers. Bristol Myers Squibb teamed up with Bain Capital to launch a new company focused on immunology drugs, backed by $300 million in funding. The new firm took over 5 experimental drugs, including treatments for lupus and psoriasis, licensed from Bristol Myers. Bristol Myers retained a 20% stake and will earn payments as the drugs progress through developments, including royalties and bonuses. Luxury car maker Audi lowered its full-year revenue expectations, citing higher US import tariffs and restructuring costs. The company now expects revenue between $76 and $82 billion. Audi said it was still reviewing the new US-EU tariff deal, which set a 15% baseline rate on EU car imports and replaced the previous 27.5% duty. Waymo announced it would launch driverless taxi services in Dallas starting next year as part of its national expansion strategy. The Alphabet-owned company teamed up with Avis Budget Group to handle fleet operations and maintenance under a multi-year partnership. Waymo was already running paid autonomous rides in 4 US cities and said it would expand to Miami and Washington, D.C. later in 2026. Microsoft launched a new Copilot mode on its Edge browser using artificial intelligence to enhance web search and navigation as completion in AI browsing intensifies. The feature allowed users to organize searches, compare results across tabs, and use voice commands for browsing without switching windows. Microsoft said Copilot would run on Windows and Mac PCs for free. China's tech firms unveiled 2 new AI alliances in Shanghai, a move to reduce reliance on US technology amid restrictions on NVIDIA chips. The Model Chip Ecosystem Innovation Alliance brings together Chinese makers of large language models and AI chips, including Huawei. The second alliance aims to apply AI in industrial transformation. Moving to sports, today we begin with chess. India's Divya Deshmukh beat compatriot Koneru Hampi to become the first Indian champion of the Women's World Cup. The 19-year-old beat her 38-year-old senior using black pieces in the second rapid tiebreaker game to clinch the crown. With this, Divya also earned the coveted Grandmaster title. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said Divya's accomplishment will make chess even more popular in the country. In cricket, Australia beat West Indies by 3 wickets in the 5th T20 International in the United States. After taking to field first, Australia bowled out the Caribbean side at 170 runs. The Australians chased down the total with 3 wickets and 3 overs remaining as they completed a 5-0 whitewash. Australian all-rounder Cameron Green was named player of the series. England add fast-bowling all-rounder Jamie Overton to their squad for the decisive 5th test against India at the Oval starting July 31st. The return of the Surrey paceman is the only change to the group from Old Trafford, where India played a draw with England after batting for 5 sessions and 143 overs. England's continental champion women's football team returned home to a stellar welcome. From the airport near London to Lionesses were whisked straight to 10 Downing Street. The team were hosted at number 10 by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. An open-top bus parade will follow later today, culminating in a celebration in front of Buckingham Palace. England beat Spain in a penalty shootout in the Euro 2025 finals on Sunday. And as London celebrates the continental win of their Lionesses, Nigeria's capital Abuja too erupted in celebration following their team's triumph in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The continental champions touched down in Abuja to a colourful reception. The Super Falcons were later hosted by President Bola Tinubu at his official residence. Nigeria beat Morocco in Africa Cup final over the weekend to clinch their 10th title. India is set to announce the next head coach of the men's football team. Reports say professional football manager Khalid Jamil remains the front-runner for the top job. Former India coach Stephen Constantine too remains in contention. In tennis, British women's number 1 Emma Raducanu began her Canada Open run with a win. The 22-year-old beat Romania's Elena Gabriela Rus in straight sets. Raducanu continues to find her rhythm on hard court as she prepares for the US Open in August, the final Grand Slam of the year. Japan's Naomi Osaka announced working with Polish coach Tomasz Wiktorowski on a trial basis. The 4-time Grand Slam winner made the announcement a day after she officially split with her French coach. Viktor Rauski coached the recently crowned Wimbledon champion Iga Świątek from late 2021 until last October, during which she won 4 of her 6 career Grand Slam singles titles. In swimming, a 12-year-old schoolgirl Yu Zidi from China was labelled phenomenally talented by her much senior rivals as she narrowly missed on a World Cup medal in Singapore. Yu finished 4th in women's 200-meter medley in her first World Championship final. She was the fastest of the blocks and was in the 3rd place before fading towards the end of the race. She missed out on bronze by just 0.06 seconds. And the Indian Olympic Association called a special general meeting for the next month to seek approval for an official bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. India has expressed interest to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games in Ahmedabad. An Indian delegation led by India Olympic Association President P.T. Usha met Commonwealth sport officials in London last month to discuss the bidding process. And finally, in entertainment news, Disney has released the first trailer for Avatar: Fire and Ash. It is the 3rd installment in James Cameron's Avatar film series. Set for release on December 19, 2025, the film introduces a new Na'vi clan called the Ash People, who appear to control fire and pose a new threat to Pandora. Cameron described the upcoming film as visually stunning and emotionally intense, with deeper challenges returning characters. Marvel Animation has released the first trailer for Eyes of Wakanda. It is a 4-episode animated series set to premiere on Disney Plus on August 1. The show will explore the journeys of a covert Wakanda warrior group. The series, executive produced by Black Panther director Ryan Coogler, will follow these warriors as they travel the globe recovering vibranium artifacts. Each episode will take place in a different time and location. HBO has officially renewed its period drama, The Gilded Age, for a 4th season. The announcement comes ahead of the season 3 finale, which is scheduled to air on August 10th. The network reported a 20% rise in viewership compared to the previous season, with the show achieving record high ratings for 2 consecutive weeks. Actor Julia Garner has shared that the Madonna biopic, in which she will portray the pop icon, is still in development despite reports on cancellation. Speaking on the Smartless podcast, Garner expressed admiration for Madonna and recalled the rigorous audition process that involved dancing and singing in front of the singer. Directed by Madonna herself, the project was first announced in 2020 and has undergone multiple script revisions. And finally, the 3rd season of the romantic drama The Summer I Turned Pretty has drawn 25 million global viewership within its first week, marking a 40% increase from Season 2's initial viewership. Premiering on July 16 on Prime Video, the show continues to gain popularity since its 2022 debut. The story revolves around a girl stuck in a love triangle between 2 boys. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Galan and we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.
Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma.